Hey everyone, welcome to Comics with Bueller. I'm Bueller here. Today's a little bit different. I'm stepping in front of the camera for the first time, so I apologize in advance. You're going to have to sit there and look at my face for radio for the next few minutes. But the reason why I'm in front of the camera is because I want to talk about something that's very important to me. This is my top 10 pet peeves about comics. And this goes over a bunch of different topics. It's not just the comic books themselves. It also has to do with the people involved with comics. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and get started. And here we go. So, my number one pet peeve is this thing right here. This is called tape. And tape is a comic book's worst enemy. I know we've all done this. I've done this multiple times. You open up the bag, you forgot to take the little piece of tape off, you go to pull out the comic, all of a sudden it stops. And it's just sitting there, and you can't pull it out anymore. You flip it up, or you flip it over, and there it is. The tape is stuck to the cover of the comic book. And maybe it's a valuable comic book. But it doesn't matter. It's stuck to the comic book and you can't get it off. So what do? Do you just cut around it? Or do you try to take the tape off? Either way, you're screwed. Tape is the worst enemy. Now, there are other options. There are resealable or self-adhesive bags. And those are great. But they're 50 cents more. And I'm on a budget, so this is always laying around. So, tape. My next one kind of goes with the tape. I don't know if you can see this on the video, but it's this thing right there. It's this little flap that's sticking out. And I know you all have them. I look over at one of my long boxes right now, and there's like 3 or 4 of them. And let me tell you the worst thing about these is you go through and you put them down, and then the very next day there's more and there's more. They never go away. But it gets worse, people. This one is the double butterfly. Look at that. 1, 2. This one's trying to get away. I put a little mark right there where the tape is. So, the easy solution is 2 pieces of tape, the comic's worst enemy, goes on the back. Look how happy the comic book is. Holds the flap down. Makes it look nice and pretty. 2 pieces of a comic book's worst enemy makes your comic look better. Okay, enough with the fun and games. This one's kind of a personal preference to me. So, CGCs. I haven't collected comic books for a long time. I collected in the in the 80s, in the early 90s, and then life happens and you get rid of your collection, and then you get into your 40s and then you're like, oh, I missed that stuff, and I don't have anyone telling me not to buy them. Anyway, back to the CGCs. These weren't out when I was collecting comics, and now they're a thing. I'm not 100% sold on them. I like having my comics to where I can open up and look at them and stuff like that. I understand that you guys get them graded for the value of the book. If you're flipping comic books, great. That's what you should do. But if they're just going to be in your regular collection and they're just going to be there for you to enjoy, I'd say just stick with the original. That's what they are meant for. They're still going to be in great shape. Just take a little bit more care of them. Anyway, CGCs. My next one kind of came into play when I started collecting again, and it is huge arcing storyline comics that cover multiple titles that no one in their right mind can keep track of. So this came out about the time when I started collecting, and I made it to about the 2nd issue, and I gave up because all the other titles I saw were had the Secret Empire on the top, and I didn't know what was going on. I could not keep track. It's so confusing to everyone. Marvel, DC, whoever, keep it simple. Keep the arc in the title itself. Have an ending and a beginning and an ending, and call it good. I'll give you an example of an older book. This was Black Panther, somewhat relevant right now. This is a 4-issue series. It started with number 1, and it had 4 issues, and it was over, and it didn't tie into anything else. You started at 1, you finished at 4, and you were done. Anyway, so my next one is kind of, it's more, this one is more with people. And I don't mean to sound like a comic book know-it-all or an elitist or whatever, but there is a certain group of people out there that think that their comics are going to send their kids to college someday. And the truth of the matter is, 95% of the comics that are out there are worth less than a couple dollars. There is that 5% that you can make some money on, or actually worth some money, and that's great. If you have those books, great. But 95% of the stuff that's out there is only a couple bucks. I don't know how many times I've seen this book come up, and people are told me that, oh, I'm going to keep my number 1 issue of X-Force sealed in a bag, mint, and I'm going to send my kids to college with it someday. You can't send your kids to the dollar store with this book. It's just the way it is. You know, they printed millions of these just like they did the other books. The only reason books are worth any money are if it's a first appearance of a major character or a new artist or a writer or something like that. The vast majority are a couple dollars. I'll give you another example of a book that I bought and I thought, hey, this would be worth some money. This is a Punisher War Journal number 7. Great book, by the way. It was part of a 2-part series, number 6 and 7. Had the Punisher, had Wolverine. They kind of fight each other. Man, this is going to be worth a lot of money. This came out almost 30 years ago, and you can find this in the dollar bin. Great book, by the way, so if you do find it, you should pick it up. But keep it realistic, people. Comics are only worth what somebody's willing to pay for them. And if you're only willing to pay $1 for this, guess what? It's only worth $1. So anyway, I could spend a lot more time on this subject, but I want to get to my other things. So here we go. I'm going to hold this up and see if you guys can figure it out. I won't even say. So I sacrificed this comic to show this example of the cover being folded over in a bag. Now this is a little bit extreme. They're normally not that glaring. But I've been in comic stores to where this has been an issue with their back issues. They're just sitting there and one of the corners is folded over. It only takes a second to fold it back. It makes it look more presentable, you know. And, it's just a little pet peeve, and that's what this video is all about. So make sure you fold the corners back if they're bent like that. Okay? Thanks. Moving right along. So when I got back into it, I started collecting Justice League of America, number 1. And then I got the last issue, number 60. I finished the run. I was happy. And then I found this thing. And it was a 0. And apparently 0 was a thing for a while. It might still be. I'm not 100% sure. But 0. When did they start doing 0 comics? I have no idea why this is a thing. That doesn't make any sense. Comic books should start with 1. Go to 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. There's other books out there. 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 129.1, 129.2. Those are the worst. Solid, real numbers. 1, 2, 3. Keep it going. That's how it's meant to be. My next pet peeve is comics that are in the wrong size bag. It just looks tacky. You know, there's a few different bags. Golden Age, Silver Age, Modern Age comics. If you got comics and you're going to put them in bags, get the right size bags. They're only a little bit different in price, if any. But do a little research. Find out which bags fit in what, and get the right ones. I'll give you another example, by the way. This is obviously one that's too big. So this is one that's too small. Look how horrible that looks. It's bending the book. That's not good. Not good at all. This is an example of one that's perfect. It fits perfect. This is what your comic should look like. Get the right boards, get the right bags, make your comic look great. There you go. Okay, this next one, second to last, is how many different variant covers do we need? There are so many variant covers of stuff out there. I can't keep track. I don't even know where to begin. I watch all these haul videos and every single cover is a variant, and I never see them. I'm lost. But you know, there was the original variant, and some people are probably going to argue with me about this, but it was the Batman Dark Knight #1. It had 4 different covers. It was the Rainbow Batman came out. I remember when these came out, bought a ton of them. They're not worth anything. But yeah, this thing started it all, because I'm sure they sold millions of copies of each color when it's all the same book. Fast forward, there's something more recent, and this is an extreme example. But here's a cover of Justice League #1. They made a different cover for every single state, including Guam and Virgin Islands, and probably more for all I know. But over 50 covers for this book. That's a little excessive. Just do one cover, maybe one extra variant, that's about it. But let's try to keep it simple. So I got one last thing. And if you're still with me to this point, more power to you, I'm surprised. But the last one is the most important one. And you should take it serious, because this last one is serious. So everyone knows what this looks like. This does not look like a comic book, because it's not a comic book. These are not comics. Digital comics, been around for a while now. I'm not a fan. I can't stand them. You know, it's just, it takes the money out of the local comic shop, you know, pocket. And people who own comic shops are not getting rich anytime soon. It's just not that big of a thing, you know. And so if you're buying comics, please don't buy the digital comic version only. If you buy a new book and you get you get a book, you know, and it has a code in there for a digital comic, great. That's what it's meant to do. But don't bypass the book and just go digital, because you're not helping anyone by doing that. So take the time, pass on this, buy this. You can open the pages. You don't swipe this. You might not realize that there's no swiping involved. So for the younger people, that might be a little bit confusing. But this is a real comic. This is the way they started, and this is the way that they will end. Anyway. So, we're at the end of the video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. I had a lot of fun. If you liked it, go ahead and hit that like button, because apparently that does something. If you didn't like it, you can hit that button. Thanks for subscribing. I'll do more videos for you later. Feel free to turn on that notification thing if you want to hear my voice. But full warning, you might see my face as well. But I had fun. Thanks for taking the time to watch this, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.